Welcome to the Finance Marketing Podcast, a show that empowers finance professionals to market their businesses in ways that feel good and actually achieve results. I'm your host, Hillary. I've been working with folks in financial services to develop marketing strategies that work and create results-oriented marketing content since 2020. And I've learned a lot about what works in finance marketing, what doesn't work, and where financial services pros get stuck. Join us each Friday as we explore real, effective ways to market your finance business and connect with folks who truly embody your ideal clients. My guest this week is Lacey Langford, founder of MILMO and MilMoneyCon. Lacey is a financial coach dedicated to helping the U.S. military with personal finance, and she is also the founder of MilMoneyCon, which is a national conference for financial professionals united by military service. Now, I've been following Lacey on LinkedIn for several years and finally had the pleasure of meeting her and seeing her speak at the first ever Women in Money conference hosted by FinCon last summer in Atlanta. Lacey does incredible work, and she is so down to earth and funny that you just can't help but love her when you meet her. So in this conversation, Lacey chats about how she develops relationships based on trust and comfort well before her clients become paying clients. She also, as with many of my guests, talks about the impact that niching has had on her coaching practice and how much simpler it is to talk to her ideal clients in her marketing now that she has such a clear and definable niche. But what I really loved about this conversation is that Lacey goes into great detail about how difficult it was to find her niche in the first year or so of her business and how she tried on several different niches before she found the right fit for her. Finally, Lacey and I chat about the importance of systems in any business. Systems was actually the topic of the talk she gave at last summer's Women in Money conference, so I was really excited to get the chance to dive in deeper with her about the power of systems and learn more about the systems she uses in her own business to make marketing and client relationships more efficient and effective. Lacey is a true wealth of knowledge when it comes to business operations and niching, so let's dive in. All right. Thank you so much, Lacey, for joining me on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. I'm so excited to chat with you. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about this discussion too.
Yeah, I would love to start if you could just tell our listeners a little bit about who you are, maybe some of your background story and what it is you do today.
Yes. So my name is Lacey Langford. At the heart of what I do, I'm a financial coach. I help the military community with money. And I like to say that's my core. Things have evolved over time, but I think where it really started was me starting my own coaching business out of being frustrated. I was a military spouse, and my career kind of was dependent on my husband's infantry career. He was in the Army. And so wherever the Army sent us is kind of the way my career had to work around that. And that required a lot of volunteering, and I had small children. So it was difficult for me to work with a financial advisor when, we were just going to leave the next year. And one day I just got frustrated and said, I'm going to start my own business that I can take with me wherever we move. So I have control over my career and my earning ability. And it started from there. I was like, how am I going to get clients? How am I going to get the word out there? So I started a website and started to try to learn about more business things and marketing myself. And then that evolved. I started a podcast. I started a course. I then started a conference. So it's taken years to get where I'm at, but that's really what I do as a financial coach and how it has evolved over time.
Well, I love that. And first of all, I've loved just kind of getting to know you on and off LinkedIn over the past year or so and learning more about what you do and how you serve the military community. I'm curious, when you first started your business, how did you find your first few clients? Like, how did you start those conversations with people?
Well, thinking back, it's very cringe how I started getting
All of
clients.
us.
Yes, a lot of it's cringe. I realized I knew how to be a financial coach, but it's still growing and learning my process and so getting better. I had the basics, I guess I would say. And then really having to learn the business side of things. I wasn't prepared for that, even though oddly I had a business degree in finance. I just feel like I wasn't ready for that part. And so it was really starting like with friends and family. I definitely started with family first,
Mm,
and then trying to, people. My world was around the military, so it was like people that my husband worked with, and I really didn't like that. So I didn't
mm,
want to. I don't know if poach is the word, but I didn't want to hit up like everybody that we knew that was close to us. And that really wasn't great. But I also saw the value in people getting to know me, because as a financial coach, you're talking about very intimate things in people's lives. Often they've never said them out loud, let alone like to a
mm,
stranger. So um, that know, like, and trust factor was really important. And so I thought, well, I got to create a website. I need to put some information out there so people can get to know Lacey and who I am, to know that I'm approachable. I'm really not judgmental. That's above my pay grade to be passing judgment on how people spend their money. I just want to help them get where they want to be. And then that too started the podcast. So it was like step by step. And then
mhm,
I was like going to meetups, going into Facebook groups, very grassroots or basic what I did in the very beginning,
mhm,
but it was really the goal to have people get to know me and not be so fearful, because often people have never hired a financial coach. They don't know how that works in the basics of that. They don't know how it works. And then talking to a stranger about their personal life. So there's a lot of difficult steps before somebody hires you as a financial coach. So I was trying to, mitigate those and let people each of those steps to let them know, like, hey, you don't have to worry about this because of this. You don't have to get to know me. I started a free 15-minute consultation for people that were interested but
mhm,
didn't know me yet enough to put down money. And that was really helpful to have conversations with me. And, you know, also to know that I'm competent. That's another part of it is,
mm.
people were like, does she really know about money? And so that's a chance for them to get to know me personally, but then also the professional side of things.
Yeah, there's so many things I want to touch on that you just said. Number one, I think it is really pertinent. People don't really know what to expect when they work with a financial coach. I mean, I think people know what to expect when they work with a financial advisor, maybe to some degree, right? They're like
Yeah.
probably going to manage my money, right? And that's not always true, but and then I think people also kind of know what to expect when I'm going to work with a therapist. But I think financial coach is kind of this interesting middle ground of like, what are we actually going to talk about and what are we going to do and things like that. So I can see there's a lot of education that needs to happen with your
Yes.
audience beforehand.
Yeah, I actually have a document for many aspects of my business, but for the financial coaching, I have a what to expect document. So they know
Mm,
how it works, how payment works, the information I'm going to ask from them, what that coaching first session is going to look like, what the second one is going to look like. So I start to get people comfortable with me. So when they show up, and the other part of that is to let them know, like, I'm not trying to give you another homework project. You're coming to me because you need help, not because you need additional work. Like
mm.
that's for me, when I hire people, like, I don't need another headache. I need a solution. So I try to make it real easy. Like, hey, I need you to set up the appointment. I need you to give me, like, answer this one question, and then just show up and I'll take it from there. I'll do my job. I just
Mm,
need you to be there and be ready to have a conversation. So I
mm,
think having a what to expect document is really important. The other part too is providing value. I have like a free kickstart kit for finances. And so I don't like to turn anybody away. So if somebody comes to me and they can't afford me, or they're not ready, some people, they've got an excuse. They're not ready there yet. So it's like, no, that's not going to work for me, or that's not going to work for, you give them like 10 ideas and none of them work for them.
right.
So giving people information that they can take, and another way to get to know you, provides value. And often that helps people that don't have the budget, but it helps people in a way that they want to come back when they do have the budget to be able to pay for your services.
Right. Yeah, it gets them in your circle so that you're
Mhm.
kind of top of mind. One thing I'd love to ask you is because I've talked to a few different coaches and it seems like some coaches are on this side and some coaches are on the other. And that's to do with how your program works. I've talked to a lot of coaches where they're like, well, I kind of like for my clients to just come see me as long as they want to, and they get to really decide what we talk about in every meeting. Whereas other coaches, they have like a 6 month or a 9 month or a 12-month program, and this is what we're going to cover and things like that. I'm curious, where do you fall on that spectrum?
I fall on the side, and it's actually in my orientation that I'm trying to work myself out of a job. I
Mm,
want them to help them be where they're at, and then once they're there, they're good, and they can come back to me as needed. And that's just my personality. I want people to have confidence to do things on their own. And often that's really what, as a coach, you're doing, you're sounding board. So
Right.
you're helping people know maybe some best practices, or give them frame of reference, give them some perspective. I have tried it always. So I have
Mhm.
done, like, okay, you have to do a coaching package of 3 sessions. You have to do 6 or whatever it is. But where I really landed on was an orientation. So I explain in the free 15-minute consultation before somebody hires me that the first session won't be a lot of value provided to them, because it's discovery.
Mhm.
You're having to learn a lot of things, get the background. And oftentimes people are stressed and they're trying to get something off their chest. So there's a lot of listening
Mhm.
and guiding the conversation. And so I let people know, hey, I think this is going to take like 3 more. I think this is going to take 2 more. Or often it's like, hey, actually, let's just solve this right here. This is your biggest stressor. Like, this is why
Mhm.
you came to me, like this one thing. And that can help them. Even in the free 15-minute consultation that I do with people, if I can't help you, I'll let you know right there. Like, I'm not your girl, but I know somebody that is your that is your person, that would be better suited for you, especially if you're coming in with something really tax heavy. No,
Mhm.
you're going to need somebody that specializes in tax.
Right.
And often people don't know those things. They don't know the difference. Like, hey, you actually have a huge estate planning problem. You need an attorney, not a financial coach. And
Mhm.
so I try to do that without taking anybody's money, because then I'll feel guilty about that. but
Right.
but I find that giving the orientation, I mean, letting people know what to expect. That the first session, it's discovery, not a lot of value provided. And then the orientation, because I feel like the lessons that I've learned and why people want to do a certain amount of sessions
Mhm.
is because is that trust factor and the intimacy of things. And so I found over time that I would talk with people and we would get through an hour session, and at the end of that and making a plan, and at the end of that hour session they would tell me a key piece of information that they just now felt comfortable enough after an hour
Wow.
to tell me, but it changed everything that we just talked about. So we're starting over again. Like,
Right.
oh, well, actually, I think about, I'm getting a divorce, I'm losing my job, or whatever it is, something that they're not comfortable telling me in the beginning.
Wow.
And so I started doing an orientation to kick things off. Like, one, and they're all lessons that I've learned along the way. Like, people that I think were going to hurt themselves based off of the financial situation that they were in. So I let people know that I take that real serious, because
Mhm.
unfortunately sometimes people, not that they just need something, maybe need attention, need somebody to listen to them. And I want them to know that going that route is very serious business. So I understand if you want somebody to talk to, but if you're talking that way, then I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to alert, somebody that can help you. So that's the first thing I tell people is, if I think you're going to hurt yourself or hurt somebody else, I'm going to notify somebody, depending on who the client is. So that sets the tone for and I say that at every session, because I don't want to get in that situation ever again. But also too, I want people to know I care. Like, I seriously, if I'm going to do something to help you, if that's the case.
Right.
And then letting people know that I'm not going to judge them, that they probably wouldn't agree with all the financial decisions that I make. So why would I pass judgment on them? I tell them, everything that we talk about is confidential, so they understand that this isn't something I'm going to share with other people. So starting to get them comfortable with me and knowing who I am and the way this is going to flow. And that has really helped avoid the two sessions, and then at the end of the second session finding out a key piece of information that changes
Mm.
everything. And so that's what's helped me be able to do um, session by session, instead of saying, like, you have to be in a 6-month program. But also
Right.
too, I want people to know, like, you may not vibe with me. I don't vibe with some people. Like, I've gone to doctors and be like, you are not my person. I've gone to dentists and be like, I really don't like you. I feel like you're trying to upsell everything in my mouth. you know,
Right.
I feel like this might be an insurance scam. And so I don't want people to think that they're like locked in with me. I want them to know that they have the freedom to walk away, and that's okay. That I'm not going to resonate with everybody, and I'm, you know, not the smartest person. You might more need somebody that's analytical. So I'm okay with you walking away from me, and I'm going to help get you to the person that you need to be with. But I want people to have that freedom, and that also goes back to making them feel more comfortable and telling me things in the beginning versus 2 sessions in.
Right. I love that. I love that you found kind of a system that works for you. And I know we're going to talk about systems in a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it is really powerful for you to have like a long sit down conversation with someone and then be able to make some recommendations to them. And then you can always kind of adjust that going forward. I think that um, it sounds like it makes a lot of sense for you and them. I imagine as a coach, it's really hard. You know, you're not a therapist. You didn't set out to be a therapist, and yet you kind of probably often find yourself in this role of being a therapist in some ways.
Yes. And, time and doing it over and over again, I have found that I think that's my personality.
Mm,
And I see that with talking to other coaches, planners, and what people do, that they don't necessarily have those same situations. And I realize that people do feel comfortable with me. They know I am trying to be authentic. I'm really not good at being somebody else, so I don't ever try to be. I also am free to admit, like, I'm not the smartest person in the room usually. But I do care. That, I
mhm,
am really strong in empathy, so I think that's helpful for people. But I think being a sounding board and a good listener is really important in being a financial coach. And then being confident enough to say, like, you don't need me. Like, I'm
mm,
not going to take your money. Like, you need a therapist, you need, a doctor, you need a lawyer, you need an accountant, whatever it is. Or, hey, we need to bring in like somebody, I need to ask a question to see who you should go to. I need to ask some
mhm,
friends. So I think I'm okay with that. I think some people aren't okay with that.
mhm,
It's, I don't know if it's ego or whatever it is, but I've, in the beginning too, though, you're trying to be great at, I'm a financial coach, you should hire me, but now I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get everybody. And I've diversified the way I make money, which has been very helpful as a financial coach,
mhm,
where I feel better about, you know what, I don't think you should hire me. I think somebody else
mhm.
would be a better fit for you. And that helps me sleep better, and then also too, I've learned along the way that I am very empathetic, and that's hard for me sometimes because you're hearing some really horrible stuff going on in people's lives. And doing coaching back to back is kind of emotionally taxing on me, especially if it's, bad things back
Right.
to back. When you have great things like, oh, I have, $100,000 in my checking account, wonderful. Like, let's get that sorted out. But when you're like, I'm, getting a divorce, I'm, having problems with my kid, problems getting food on the table, abusive relationships, that type of stuff, then it gets taxing. And so I also found that I can't do these back to back. It's too much on me. Like, at one point I was like, I have to take a shower after this to
Right.
kind of like reset and calm myself down. So, and not get to the point where I care more about their situation than they do. So I have to,
Mm.
had to find some ways to navigate being myself and being a great coach, and putting boundaries down.
Right. Well, yeah, I do think for that reason, it is really important for a lot of financial coaches to diversify their income, kind of like you said, so that you're not just having to fill your entire calendar with back to back meetings just to, you know, make what you need to make to reach your own financial goals.
Yes.
Now, one thing that I would love to go back to is, you know, you said in the beginning you were doing a lot of grassroots stuff, like showing up in Facebook groups and going to meetups and things like that. And I always love to hear people talk about that because I actually saw an Instagram reel fairly recently that was about, you know, in the beginning of your business, you feel like you should be doing all these marketing things and showing up on social media and building an audience and things like that. But really, what you need to be focusing on is sales, which it sounds like that's what you were doing. And I think that that is just kind of a really reassuring message for a lot of new entrepreneurs. Like, I don't need to be doing all the things. I just need to be having conversations with people and getting them on the phone. But then you did eventually build in your podcast. And I know you show up on LinkedIn. What other marketing platforms did you build in to your business?
I think in the beginning, I did everything wrong, and not understanding. I will say I was totally ignorant of what. Wait a minute, I got to get clients. I need to make money. I was worried about some stupid stuff like the font on my website,
Right.
and I still get caught up in that. But that's not really where it's at. Like, when things kind of pile on me work wise, that's how I sift through things. Is like, where is the money making stuff? Because this is where I need to be at, not
Mm,
answering emails and doing clerical things if those other things need to be handled. And so in the beginning, I was really trying to do all of social media, and I I think a lot of marketing, you have to be true to who you are. Like, it has to sit well with you because you're the one that has to do it. You have to sleep at night, and if it's really uncomfortable, it's gonna be sloshing through it, and it's gonna take a long time. But I found, like, when I find something that really resonates with who I am,
Mm.
then it's much easier. So I was trying to do, like, Facebook, and when I started my business, I personally didn't use any social media. I'm not into that. It's also, I guess, it goes back to the empathy. Like, I just worry about people when I see posts. And so I, look at it differently when I go online. I see a lot of cries for help. And so that's hard for
Mhm.
me. So that's how I ended up really focusing on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
Even though that was hard for me in the beginning to start LinkedIn, because I was like, who's going to want to connect with me? And I know this is horrible to admit, especially publicly, but when I set up my LinkedIn account, I was like, it. Looking back now, it's so stupid, but it really is true. I was like, I can't do this, but I was like, I need to start connecting with people, but I just didn't have the confidence, or I don't know what it was. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna have a beer. I'm gonna have a beer and calm down.
A little liquid courage.
Yes, a little liquid courage. I didn't have 10 beers. I just just like just one, and then I will just start connecting with people. And that's truly what I did. It's so embarrassing to admit, but it's true. True story. True story. Um, so, but sometimes, and that's what I do, a lot of business coaching now at this point, and that's what I tell people that I coach all the time, that story. But I'm like, you just got to do it.
Yeah.
It's painful, but like, that's how painful it was for me. Like, I had to have a
Yeah.
beer to get the courage to do it. So, um, but I found that was more business related, and that was an easier place for me to start connecting. And then when I started to wrap my meeting other people, I think that's helpful. Meeting other people that are financial coaches or in business, to see like, hey, I struggle with these things too. And
Mm.
that gave me confidence, like, okay, I can do this. Like, I'm not the only one. And that's when I started to realize, like, I'm not the first person to struggle with this, and I won't be the last person to struggle with this. So I just need to get moving here. And then starting to realize, being in my head and not putting myself out there, which is the marketing part, putting myself and my business out there, that's slowing me down. It's making it so I'm
Mhm.
not making enough money. It's making it so this is taking a really long time. So that's motivating to me at this point. Like, just do it. Like, we got to keep
Right.
moving. There's a million other things to do. Yes, it's uncomfortable to put yourself out there publicly. And sometimes it ebbs and flows. Like, sometimes I'm like, I got the courage to do this. Let's do it now. And then sometimes I'm like, you know what? I need a break. Like, I cannot put myself out there anymore. It's really difficult for me. And so I've given myself some grace to be like, you can take a week off from posting,
Yeah.
or automation is very helpful. But the LinkedIn thing, I think going out and meeting other professionals is really important, especially like in local groups.
Mhm.
And that's where you're trying to get your clients, and in the niche that you're in. I really believe in niching down as a financial coach or planner or whatever space you're in. But going to where those people are, that's the part that I didn't get in the beginning. I was just trying to like sling it all out there. Like, I'm just desperate to get anybody. But then when I started to realize, like, it actually helped, I started taking clients from my church. And you would think that that would be just a natural fit. Well, it wasn't. It was the most painful thing I've ever
Mm.
done. And that's when I realized the military is my niche, because I could talk to a military person about money for 2 hours and it felt like 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I talked to these people for 30 minutes and it felt like 3 hours. I'm like, what is not resonating with you? Like, we just weren't vibing. They weren't getting, wasn't the same language, even though we obviously have something in common. We go to the same church, but, and so that's when I was like, all right, I need to really focus on the military. And that made it easier for me to get people, because we speak the same language. I understand their struggle. It's difficult to get a client and make them sell yourself to them when they have to explain their entire life story for you to even get to the money part.
Right.
So that would be like me trying to help, a tech entrepreneur. Like, I am going to need you to explain a lot about what you do before we ever get to the money. So I think that's a really important part about having a niche, is you have a basic understanding and you have some things in common, the same terminology, those type of things. So going to where they're at. So knowing where the military community is at. And that's not a lot of social media. There might be
Mm,
a lot of military spouses on social media, but a lot of active duty service members don't use social media.
right.
And so that's the other part, is like word of mouth. And that's to the why I started the podcast, was to be able to market myself and people that weren't on social media,
Hmm.
but then showing I'm competent, people getting to know my personality. So I think knowing who you are, the people that you're trying to get, is helpful in where you should land. And then also, you have to tell people what you do. I have
Yeah.
found that a lot of people just are scared to like go to like a cookout and be like, yeah, I'm a financial coach. This is what I do.
Yeah.
They may not be your client, but they might, I know somebody that actually needs somebody, like, and they're in your niche or whatever it is. So finding, where your people are at, what you're comfortable with, and then being transparent, like, hey, this is what I do, and start putting the word out there, publishing on LinkedIn. I've opened business, that type of stuff.
Yeah. I can just relate to so much of what you said, feeling that fear. I remember this exact moment in my business where I had just, a couple of clients had paused work with me, and I was really fearful and worried about how much money I was going to be able to bring in and how much money I was going to make. But I also had been putting off showing up on LinkedIn. That I knew that was my platform for a couple of different reasons, that that was where my audience was. And what I loved about LinkedIn, which is something that you said, you have to show up where you're comfortable showing up. I knew I wanted to show up on LinkedIn because you can just do text-based posts. You don't have to show up on video all the time. Whereas Instagram, you always have to have some sort of image to go with your post. And I was just never going to be able to keep up with that. I'm not a designer. I don't have a ton of photos that I want to share. It's just LinkedIn was like my place for a couple different reasons. And I remember this moment of like, okay, well, am I more scared of not being able to make the money I want to make, or am I more scared of creating a post on LinkedIn? And I had to choose the lesser of the two fears. And so I think that's like a really powerful thing. You had to crack open a beer and that worked for you. And I think that is amazing.
Yes. Looking back, probably not my proudest moment, but but sometimes that's what it takes. It takes somebody saying, "Hey, do this. Like, it's okay." And
Yeah.
I have found that's a wonderful thing about surrounding yourself with other financial coaches,
Hmm.
that they've been through it or are going through it, so they're not going to judge you. I always say that people that are further along with than you, in no way they're going to say anything because they've been there. It's the people that um and most people don't do that. There's like maybe three people in the, in your following that would say something negative. And so I try to tell myself, hey, if you don't put this out, the people that actually are following you and listening to you, they want to hear from you. And you're not talking with them because of the fear of these three people.
Hmm.
And it's unfortunate that, sometimes I think that way, worry about what they think, but I've gotten much better about that, not really caring, because I'm like, if it's so easy, everybody would be doing it. So go ahead, give it a shot.
Well, since then, you've done some really brave things. You've started a podcast, you've launched and sold a course, you run your own conference, MilMoneyCon. Now, that takes so much courage and bravery. So, talk to me about those different aspects of your business and how you built those in, and what it was like emotionally to start to do those kinds of things.
Yeah, so well, I think, going back to what I said earlier about diversifying your income and realizing it's hard for me to do a lot of coaching, especially about money. The business coaching, a lot of times you don't get into some of those deeper things that can be scary. And so, but also too, just not getting enough clients. Like, there's not enough money to live off of. It's not,
Right.
the money that I want to make. And so I got to bring in more. And so that's how things kind of started. But then as things started to get traction, people started to come to me about the things that I had been successful at. So I had a lot of military spouses and veterans that wanted to start their own coaching business
Mm.
and not having enough time in the day to be able to do that over and over again. And so a friend of mine, also an entrepreneur, was like, hey, you should just create a course for that, because if it's repetitive what you're doing, you could sell that and help people. And so I did that, and that's kind of evolved. I did it live, like at one point, and then it was just evergreen. And then seeing problems, like there were people that needed help starting their business, and I didn't want people to struggle as long as I did to make money. I feel like it should be expedited.
Mm.
And then with the conference, MilMoneyCon, I started to see like, hey, there's a lot of problems in the financial space that if we were all talking and getting together, we could solve a lot of these problems. And not to
Mhm.
mention, we could help each other, within, because my conference is for financial professionals that are united by the military by some way, military spouses, veterans, active duty that want to become a financial professional after they get out. And thinking like, hey, you should be able to make a good living as a financial professional, especially as a military spouse, and you have to move a lot. So it's kind of like the situation that I was in. You have to work around military life. And so oftentimes you're only working preschool hours, 3 days a week, 3 hours.
Mhm.
And that's what I had to do is like, I work preschool hours. I don't work part time. I don't work full time. I work preschool time. so, um, and so trying to connect the community to have these discussions and not operate in silos, and seeing that, a benefit could come out of that. There was a lot of risk, but I thought, with my podcast and my other business being kind of more established, and then having a peer group that I knew I could ask for help, like if I didn't
Mhm.
understand, because when you start something new, you don't have frame of reference. And that's the part that's scary, is like, you're going to get blindsided by a lot of stuff. And I have been and continue to be, but, you get better about my mindset. Hey, I'm not the first person this has happened to. No, won't be the last person this happens to.
Mhm.
So that is a mantra I say over and over again. Like, hey, this is just what's going to happen. But I started it. I just had my third one in Denver. I'll have my fourth one in San Antonio in 2025. And,
Oh.
I am holding on to the fact, like, I'm trying to help people, and that's been motivating. There's definitely been some struggles. It's definitely not all rainbows, but I've learned a lot, and it kind of also diversifies my income. It's a whole separate business than me helping the military community with money.
Right.
MilMoneyCon is about me and my peer group,
Yep.
other financial professionals, helping them make money faster, continue their education, get connected. Because I think that's part of it, is like, you can do all these amazing things, but sometimes you just need to be surrounded by people that say you can do it. Because when you start a business, it's like having an imaginary friend. Only you truly see it and believe it in the beginning. And you're trying to get your family and friends to be like, hey, this is my imaginary friend. Like, I'm going to start this coaching business, and I've got to put some money in it. And so they don't believe it in the way you do. But when you surround yourself with people that have had their own imaginary friend, it's a lot easier to have the confidence to do things. So that was another part of kind of getting the community together.
Well, I just love what you're doing with MilMoneyCon and building this community, and it makes me think of this realization that I had when I was in business. Before I started, I'm a former teacher, and so I never saw myself as a business owner until all of a sudden it was kind of like thrust upon me in a way. But I had this wonderful realization that the other people like me who are finance writers or finance marketers or whatever it is, they're actually not my competition. They're just this wonderful community of people that I can lean on for support, and we share referrals and we share ideas and things like that. And it sounds like you've really had that too. I'm curious to hear if, like me, did you think you might see other financial coaches, especially financial coaches in your niche, as like maybe competition, and you found that that's just really not true? Or did you always kind of know, no, we're a peer group and
Oh yeah, no. In the beginning I thought that, like, I'm competing,
mhm,
and that's good motivation, to keep going, do better, make your products, your services better, and help me, want to be a better financial coach. Also doing the coaching, like, you don't want to look like an idiot, so you want to get better at
right.
what you're doing. Like, if you're like, I didn't know the answer to that question. But again, even when I'm coaching, I am confident in saying, I don't know the answer to that. Like, I'm I can't hold all that in my brain. And so I'm going to have to follow up with you, just especially if it's like a number or a very unique situation. Um, but then I started to realize, really, I'm only competing with myself.
Mm,
There no, I can't compete with you. Like, you are unique, Hillary. Like, nobody else can be you. We do things differently. We may do the exact same thing. Like, if you were helping the military community with money, but people are going to come to you because you're you, and they're going to come to me because I'm me.
right.
And when I started to wrap my mind around that, it got a lot easier, that I'm not competing. I really am competing with the person I was yesterday. Like, I
Mm,
want to do better. I want to be a better coach. I want to be a better podcaster. I want to be a better business owner. I want to put on a better conference. And so that's now who only I'm competing with. And
mm,
I am trying to not be like anybody else, because that is what is going to set me apart, to do my coaching process different, to do my conference different, to do my podcast different. So I'm often not even looking at people in my space in that way. Or I don't even, not following their content or things like that, because I don't need financial help. Like
Right.
so I'm not going to listen to your financial podcast because I have my own financial podcast. Now I might be going to listen to a podcast about public speaking so I can become a better public speaker, or I might be going about like marketing, getting better at marketing, that type of stuff. And then also seeing that there are so many people, and then doing those coaching sessions and realizing, no, there's somebody actually better that can help you. I know
Mm.
a woman who specializes in, she's a financial coach that specializes in infertility and adoption. And so
Mm.
anytime somebody's like, "Hey, we're trying to get our finances sorted for an adoption," I'm like, out of my league, out of my league. I
Yep.
was like, but this woman is your woman. I was like, she knows this inside and out. She's personally been through this stuff. I have no idea what half of this stuff is. And so she has so many resources and tidbits that it would take me years
Right.
to be able to understand where she's at. So I'm cool with that too now, like realizing that I'm actually a better person and a better coach if I get them to the person that they really need. So, but it is tempting, especially when you see people that are doing the same thing as you, like, especially if they have some type of success. But I always like see something on LinkedIn. I'm like, good for them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
put that intention. Like, I want that to come back to me. Like, I'm happy for them. And, I just got to keep working and doing my thing, and it eventually will come. That's what I tell myself.
Yeah. Well, the last thing I want to touch on with you, Lacey, is systems, because I had the pleasure of hearing you speak at a Women in Money conference last summer, and you were talking about the importance of systems in your business. And you do so many things. You have your coaching business, business coaching and financial coaching. You have your course, you have your conference, you have your podcast. Can you tell me a little bit about the importance of systems from your perspective, and then maybe just pick one of the systems in your business that you're like, this has saved me so much time and it's so important, and just kind of walk me through that a little bit.
Yes, that one's gonna be hard. I'm gonna have to think about that one. But I think systems are important because it helps you do more with less
Mm,
and keeps you organized. Because everything is about being professional. And I really, like, if you think about your coaching clients, that's an experience they have with you. My podcast listeners, that's an experience they have with me. Or my guests, that's an experience they have with me. The attendees in my conference, that's an experience. And so I'm really focused on making sure that they have a good experience. Everybody that interacts with me, my sponsors want to make sure they have a good experience with me. And so making it from the get-go, your first impression with them comes off well, I think is really important,
mm,
and helps things not get slipped through the crack. And doing many things. I have all these things that I have going on, and if I don't have a system for each of them, it's going to be chaotic. And some of them, you improve over time. And like, I use Airtable a lot for managing most of my businesses, my podcast, my coaching clients, my conference, and I can create intake forms with that. And so I have sat down and mapped out the work that I do. So, for example, for the podcast, people come to me two ways as a guest. Either somebody's recommended them, or I have sought them out. And so either way, like, I'm going to approve or disapprove a guest. So that's like the first two steps. And then I send them information and my what to expect as a guest on my show. And that has all the information they need to know. So we don't have a million emails going back and forth, because those things eat
mm,
at your time. So as a financial coach, if you have clients that, like, well, what's the first appointment going to be like? How do I pay you? So all the questions that they have should be in one place, so
mhm.
that they can sit down and read that. And not only gives them the comfort and know what to expect, it makes it so you don't get 10 emails from each client. And not to mention, you can brand it, you make it look really organized, and it has everything there. So for coaching clients, same thing with my podcast guests. They have a form that's on that what to expect document. There's also a link to schedule with me, and I have Calendly that I use for all my different types of appointments. And then you can create zaps that do things
Mm,
automatically for you to, when somebody, signs up for my conference, they buy a ticket, they're going to get added to the email list to make sure that they get all the communication for the email list. So all of these little things, they seem like a lot, but systems really start small. And
yeah.
so just like kind of writing it out. I am good. I find it easier to map it out. So getting a huge piece of paper and mapping out every aspect of like getting coaching clients. Same thing with marketing. Like, what does that look like? How often are you going to be posting? Where are you going to be posting? Are you doing paid ads? Are you going to pay for a conference? Because you could go to a dog walking conference and speak about financial management, and you could get a lot of great clients there. So it's like, what's the system for you applying to speak at places? I have a system for that too. Like, I organize my pitches that I send in, and I also have a calendar that I look at to say, okay, these are when I need to send the pitches. So I think starting small and making it, again, for you, because some things that work for me won't be for everybody. And you have also different ways you go about doing it in the audience that you serve or your clients or things like that. But I guess that's kind of it about systems. That's really, I think just staying organized is really important. It also can help you make more money. Like, if you have all these things organized, you're not being bogged down by 10 emails, then that frees up your marketing and getting yourself out there, making a plan for that, and actually doing your coaching versus all that other back end stuff, because that's the part that people don't I didn't realize. So I won't say everybody, I'll say Lacey didn't realize that, like, there are so many things on the back end beyond just being a financial coach that I didn't realize I still had to do. And helping get organized. And two, a lot of the reasons why I have systems is because just not having the budget. Like, I don't have a budget to pay a bunch of people to do all of these things,
Right.
or I wouldn't turn a profit. And so having a system that can, help me do more with less, I think is really important to me being able to make money. And I think just starting small, using like, even just writing down your process, like a checklist, like, this is the things that I'm going to go through. And until like my coaching process, I have a checklist for that, because I want to make sure I don't forget to say, hey, if you're going to hurt yourself or hurt somebody else, I'm going to tell somebody, hey, I'm not here to judge you, and I say what I'm going to say about that. So I have all these points that I make sure I cover, but there's a checklist for that. So that way I don't get off course. But I will say the what to expect documents of all of my systems are the most powerful for me, because they reduce communication, they make people really comfortable, and it makes a good experience for that person as a coaching client, or a guest on my show, a sponsor. I do it with sponsors too. I want people to know what it's like to work with me, what they can expect. It's also too, like, there's one-off, like, sometimes I have bad days, sometimes I have family emergencies, sometimes I'm sick, which is another reason to have a system, is I've learned the hard way, like, getting the flu will really put you out for 2 weeks. But those things that's the foundation. And there's all these other systems that go with it. And then there's other people, like, I have an editor. So where in the system does it get passed off to him? And then when in the system does it come back to me? So knowing those type of things. So I could ramble on about systems all day.
Well, Lacey, the whole time you were talking, I was like, I want you to create a course about systems and I want to buy it from you.
That's actually a good one. I actually coach a lot of people on systems. So yeah. I might do that. That might be another diversified income stream. But
and I think it already has a great name. Do more with less.
Yes. That is so true. But it's helpful to, because too, like, one day, this is what I tell myself, I don't want to be doing this. And so having this system makes it so somebody else can take it over.
Yeah.
So, like, this is the one I want you to take over. And there might be components of that system that I still have to do, but that's where I'm at as my businesses have evolved, is how can I start to remove myself? Because I'm losing money by being bogged down with all these other details. So I need to move in a different direction at this point, because it's slowing me down trying to do everything myself. And that will be another system I create, like hiring or something like that. But I do that too. I have a system for saving job descriptions. So when I do hire, I have a really great idea of hiring the right person, not hiring somebody as an assistant and then wanting them to do all my social media. Like, they're not a social media expert. So those type of things. So maybe one day, of course.
Okay. Well, I will be anxiously awaiting it, because I need help with systems. So, Lacey, this has been such an amazing conversation. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about you or maybe get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm Lacey Langford on LinkedIn. That's a great place to connect with me. You can check out my podcast, The MILMO Show, at milmo.co. Or if you're interested in the conference, that's MilMoneyCon.com. Both of those places you can connect with me, email me through there or through LinkedIn.
Amazing. Well, I will link to all of those things in the show notes. And thank you so much, Lacey, for sharing all of your wisdom with us today. And thank you to all my listeners and for joining us on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it was really fun. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. If you're eager to market your business in a way that feels good and actually gets results, sign up for the Finance Marketing Podcast newsletter in the show notes so you never miss another episode. If you liked what you heard today, please be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening app and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you back here next Friday.